everything that you're saying, everything that I'm saying, it all comes back and points to one picture. And that, what does Occam's razor say? What is the most logical outcome? Why would they do this? Why? Do you know that the 2022 budget just came out, or balance sheet? $5 trillion in assets, $155 trillion in liabilities, right? $5 trillion in assets, of which the biggest asset, according to the 2022 balance sheet. Google it.
Andy Schectman paints a vivid picture of gathering numerous fragments of information and meticulously fitting them together, much like assembling a jigsaw puzzle. He embraces Occam's razor, the principle of simplicity, to unravel intricate situations logically. With keen insight, he references significant financial data, such as the 2022 budget revealing $5 trillion in assets and a staggering $155 trillion in liabilities. Through his words, Schectman invites us to join his pursuit of clarity and logical deduction as he unravels enigmas that lie beneath the surface. So keep watching and keep learning.
Yeah, I mean, I find it interesting, right? What have all the foreign investors done? They're dumping bonds. What is happening to, in record number, the U.S. public? Where are they putting their money? Two places: bonds. You see all the people rushing out of the regional banks, and rightfully so, but you see even more money rushing out of the commercial bank. Those are people with Eric Sprott and Rick Rule kind of money. The very, very, very affluent people. I'm not saying this is what they're doing. I'm talking people in that strata are saying to themselves, do I really want to keep my money in that supposedly too big to fail bank where JP Morgan, Citi, and Goldman combined have 150 trillion in derivatives? Or do I go to treasurydirect.gov and buy a smattering of a layering of short-term treasuries directly from the Treasury and not buying them direct, or getting out of the way of the systemic risk in the banks? Absolutely. Where do you put your money? I find it very, very interesting that the foreigners are dumping bonds in mass, yet the American public's running into it. How about the stock market? Just two stocks, Microsoft and NVIDIA, or NVIDIA, whatever it's called, these AI stocks, 175 billion in market cap. And that's more than 460 plus of the S&P companies combined. It's more than the value of Nike, Wells Fargo, Walt Disney, Morgan Stanley, Intel, etc. It is so overly leveraged into just a handful of stocks that the rest of them are hardly doing a dang thing. So it's interesting that if you look who's buying these stocks, the institutionals are on the sideline. This is all the American public. So you got the public as bullish as ever in these stocks as the institutionals are on the sidelines. You have the American public jumping hand over fist into treasuries and bonds, and yet the foreign investors are dumping them. It sounds like a perfect storm to me. I also want to mention one other thing. It's become very evident that the Treasury is financing the majority of its deficit and trying to reliquify through the sale of short-term T-bills. As we just mentioned. And much of the mechanism is being used for this is the reverse repo market, where they are using it to fund, kind of almost like a pseudo QE, but they're funding it through the reverse repo market. And so you have the short-term debt being financed literally by the Fed through the overnight reverse repo market. I want to read to you something because the more things change, the more they stay the same. This is from Ludwig von Mises on the manipulation of money and credit. If the practice persists of covering government deficits with the issue of notes, then the day will come, without fail, sooner or later, when the monetary system of those nations pursuing this course will break down completely. The purchasing power of the monetary unit will decline more, and that's what we're seeing, until finally it disappears completely. And that's from Ludwig von Mises, the father of Austrian economics. And that's exactly what we are doing. We are destroying the value of the dollar one way or another through monetization of our debt. And, ask yourself, okay, 32 trillion. We'll just stop spending as much. We'll work our way off. Well, we still have another 150 trillion in unfunded liabilities. How do they get paid? It's through inflation. And that's why I keep coming back to there are one of three choices that we can face. Number one, we can inflate. That's why you have these little things on the coin here, on the ridges, these little ridges. It's because way back in the Roman days, they would cut around the edges on all the coins that they were paying the soldiers with. And you do that enough, you have enough for a whole bunch more coins. Well, We can inflate. They've been doing that forever. We can default. So Richard Russell always said, inflate or die, inflate or default. And there's a third option, find a villain. And maybe, just maybe, the stupidity of everything we're doing inside this country and outside this country has been intended. Maybe that's exactly what they're doing. And that's why I keep coming back to Jared Bernstein. And I just want to read one quick thing from Jared Bernstein. And I know I've said this an awful lot, but who is Jared Bernstein? Jared Bernstein is the lead economic advisor for the United States government, for the Biden administration. And this is what Jared Bernstein has to think about the world reserve status. The privilege of having the world reserve currency is one America can no longer afford. He cites research that evidently reveals that what was once a privilege is now a burden, undermining job growth, pumping up budget and trade deficits, and inflating financial bubbles. To get the American economy on track, the government needs to drop its commitment to maintaining the dollar's reserve currency status. I think that if the dollar were not nearly as prominent as global reserve currency, we'd definitely be better off. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's the lead economic advisor for the Biden administration. And I have already talked ad nauseum about Lael Brainerd, whose whole thesis is modern monetary theory and get rid of the banks. What did Janet Yellen tell us is coming? More bank consolidations. What did we just see in Atlanta 2 days ago? Another $250 million giant office building they just walked away from. How are they walking away from hotels in San Francisco, malls in San Francisco, huge office buildings in Atlanta? How are they doing that? Because commercial real estate loans are non-recourse. Bye-bye. Here are the keys. Who holds all those loans? Oh, yeah, the regional banks that Janet said won't be bailed in. Oh, that's right. They also hold 70% of the small business loans, too. Oh, yeah, and there's going to be some bank consolidations. Oh, yeah, and M2's falling off the cliff. M2 is the money supply. How is money made in this country? Created through lending. No one's lending. No one's borrowing. The economy is slowing down. Falling off a cliff. Who's going to face that problem when these leases and loans need to be reset? A couple $100 million worth between now and the end of the year. Oh, yeah, the small businesses. Bye-bye. Here are the keys, out of business. Who's going to face that burden? The regional banks. Are they going to be bailed out? No, said Janet. Not unless they're too systemic. She's going to let them fail. Why? Consolidate the hell out of those banks because it's a whole lot easier to roll out the new CBDC. By the way, Lael Brainerd is in charge of the CBDC and Fed now, which might even come out today. So put it all together, and you see a bigger picture that's coming about, and that is, was this all planned? Maybe not. Maybe I'm crazy for saying so, but you couldn't have a couple of better advisors, and you couldn't have drawn it up better in terms of destabilizing things in this country and abroad to achieve that ultimate goal. And think of logarithmic decay. Logarithmic decay doesn't just explain the end of a currency or economic system. It also talks about a culture and a civilization who all of a sudden is upside down from the country that you and I grew up in, Dunnigan. And I know you believe that without you ever telling me that. I just know it. So the bottom line is simply this. Yeah, this is real. For the first time since I've been talking to you, this is really happening. And if Jim nailed it, well, I wish he would have called me and told me before he made it public, because this is something that has defined everything I've done for the last 3 years, and never have I been more convinced, ever, that we're about to witness some big changes in this country. Everything that you're saying, everything that I'm saying, it all comes back and points to one picture. And that, what does Occam's razor say? What is the most logical outcome? Why would they do this? Why? Do you know that the 2022 budget just came out, or balance sheet? $5 trillion in assets, $155 trillion in liabilities, right? $5 trillion in assets, of which the biggest asset, according to the 2022 balance sheet, Google it, debt. All right, so we are broke, we're insolvent, we're 130% of GDP or more. Is it intended? Is it better to find a villain? Option 3, inflate, default, or find a villain. And that villain, those bastards that did it to us, Xi Jinping and Putin and notebook, how could they do it to us? Forget about the fact that we printed more money in the last 4 years in the history of the country and stepped down interest rates to create ridiculous distortions in asset prices. Forget about that. They did it. and the public will believe it. And here comes your reset, and everyone, just like Klaus Schwab said, if it really did get that bad, if the banks blew up and the dollar was shunned and the interest rates spiked, and maybe it doesn't happen all at once. Maybe it happens over a few months or a year. Who knows? Maybe it happens over a few years. I don't know. But the trend in motion is I believe, already headed our way. And I think that it's real. And I keep coming back. Now, I never felt this way before, right? All these years that I've been talking with you, I didn't really think that I thought this was pushback against the hegemony of the West, the hypocrisy of the West, where we can go into Iraq, blow up their country. Oh, we didn't find the weapons. We're sorry. Well, you know how Iraq feels about that right now? They make trading in dollars illegal right now. And Iraq, who just joined a naval conglomerate with Iran and Saudi Arabia and India and a whole bunch of other countries, that a lot of them didn't like each other, but as we've said before, along with the railway that was just built, brokered by China between Iran and Iraq, or the newfound relationship between Iran and Saudi Arabia. They're all on the same Brics naval force that just came about. My enemy is and my enemy's enemy is my friend. Things are changing, and people who suffer from recency and normalcy bias, something you and I talk about a lot, I think, are going to be sorely mistaken for not legitimizing just how severe this could be. And maybe they're right. Maybe we're able to pull a rabbit out of our hat. After all, Kristalina Georgieva, the head of the IMF, did say that a central bank digital currency that's not backed by something is just fiat. They also did say, the IMF, that, hey, gold, a barbarous relic, as gold, an international reserve currency, a barbarous relic no more. I mean, that's the IMF talking in a report they issued this last winter. Maybe there is a plan. Maybe there is something they're going to try and do to legitimize, but I don't know, Dunnigan. I think of all of the years that we've been doing this, I come to one fact, and that is either our government is obscenely stupid.
As we bid farewell to Schectman's speech, we're left with an invitation to engage our curiosity, hone our deductive skills, and approach life's enigmas with a blend of precision and wonder. Just as he masterfully arranges the pieces of his intellectual puzzles, we too are inspired to venture forth and piece together the narratives that shape our world. What do you think of today's video? If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment, like it, and subscribe so you can continue the journey. Thank you.